Hi everyone, welcome to Citizen episode 12, which is the past. So this is a history one. If you're into history like me, I used to love history as a kid. It's my favourite subjects at school, and obviously it's only natural that I would be interested in history of football, and obviously particularly Manchester City. So welcome to episode 12. The main crux of this one will be the season 74-75. So obviously going back quite a few years there, aren't we? But we're looking at particularly November 1974. Anyway, if you like what we do, push the old subscribe button. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Push the bell notification so you know when these things are coming out. And as I've said before, this is also hosted on City Fan TV, kindly by Ray. So if you're watching this on City Fan TV, push the old subscribe button for him. If you're watching it, obviously on my Citizen vlogs, then please push the subscribe button for me. Or if you don't want the other, go over to the other one and do the same. So you know when these things are coming out. Anyway, obviously it appears on mine slightly before it appears on City Fan TV. But again, my thanks to Ray. Right. Before I go on with this, obviously it was quite a sad day. Well, not a sad day, obviously. I mean, these things now turn into a celebration, don't they? Obviously, we're at the match on. As you know, I'm not into these artistic impressions, but obviously anything of Joe Mercer, no matter how it's done, I'll go along with that. But obviously, we had a minute's. I'm not sure if it was meant to be a silence and it turned into a spontaneous applause. I'm not 100% sure. But obviously, we had a minute to applause anyway for the wonderful Eric Alexander, who sadly passed away quite recently. It's a great sadness that the club announces the death of former Manchester City chairman and honorary president Eric Alexander at the age of 86. Eric Alexander, whose family have had direct involvement with the club since formation as Manchester City in 1894, so I mean, amazing that, isn't it, really, if you think about it, was a popular presence among the footballing scene of the Northwest and within the Isle of Man TT community. Manchester City sends its condolences to his wife Mavis, his children and their families, as do we all. We all obviously echo that sentiment. A great servant to the club. There's a little picture of Eric at the Etihad there. Rest in peace, Eric. And interesting actually, because I was just looking through in the season, a couple of seasons before the one we're looking at, the season before we're looking at. I remember this game really, really well. City versus Birmingham. That was the first game of the season in 1973, and it was quite funny. I remember it from a personal point of view because obviously I was 14 then, 13 going on 4. Yeah, so I was just 14 in 1973. I remember it being the first game. I used to always get to Main Road quite early, and I think I was on my own. Sometimes I used to walk up on my own. Sometimes I used to go with my mates, etc. But obviously it was probably a couple of hours before kickoff, an hour and a half, and I could hear they were singing. I mean, it was just all I could hear was City being shouted from the kickoff as I was walking up. And what it was actually Birmingham City fans that actually got in the Kippax very, very early, obviously, because it was just when it opened. So they'd literally took the Kippax, if you can think about it at that time. There's a lot of, in the 70s, obviously, we'll touch on that again with other things that we look at. But obviously, in the 70s, there's a lot of credence with, being hard and taking people's ends, etc., etc. Birmingham had a bit of a reputation. It wasn't a nice place to go. I mean, went to Birmingham a few times in the 70s and the 80s, onwards. It was never a pleasant place to go. But I mean, Aston Villa was far pleasanter, if that's a word you can use. I've never seen to have as much trouble at Villa as we did at Birmingham City. Anyway, it's quite funny because within about, I mean, these things used to happen. Obviously, there's no segregation, but once all the City fans got in, I mean, I think the Birmingham fans were pushed to one side, or it was kicking off all over the place as it would do. But eventually, obviously, the Birmingham fans. I remember walking up the steps, going right to the top, and then getting to the top, and some guy said, "Oh, don't go in there, mate," because they're obviously all the Birmingham lads were in there already. But obviously by kick-off, I don't know where they were. They'd sort of disappeared by then, and all the City fans, Manchester City fans, had got in. Anyway, that was quite poignant. But again, getting back to Eric Alexander, there's actually a piece in this programme, and I only stumbled across it my 2 years as chairman. So he was relinquishing the chairmanship then. I'll just read a couple of bits out of this. 2 years of leading a major club like Manchester City as chairman has been a privilege, and despite our patchy moments and unnecessary controversies, it has also been a matter of great pride to me. but it has consumed more time and energy than I continue to budget for, especially with the demands increasing. And it is for this reason that I have notified my colleagues on the directorate that at the annual shareholders meeting on Friday, October the 5th, I will relinquish the chairmanship. So obviously in the programme notes there, he was actually linking, he only did the chairmanship for a couple of years, even though he was obviously linked with City for many, many, many years. Even now, he was honorary life president, wasn't he? And, just carrying on from that, my regret, chairmanship is not simply a task of holding a title. That's why I hope we don't get too many tycoons in football who want to start teaching the natives how to suck eggs. It's not that simple. 1973, this. So, Eric obviously knew perhaps what was going to be coming. But I'm glad I'd done it. It has been a privilege to serve City. And I know that's in handing over to Peter Swales. There you go. When October comes, the future will be very safe and the club's strength will continue to grow. Well, yeah, it probably did for a while, didn't it? But I assure our supporters, our wonderful supporters, that our feet are pointed in the right direction. The words of Eric Alexander there, and very poignant with the passing. Rest in peace, but interesting piece. I thought I'd share that with you, obviously, with an interesting piece. We're not looking at August 73, we're looking at November 74, but that's very interesting thing there. And before I go on to 1974 and switch the camera and let you see what we've got today, obviously we do have this coming out. It's not available as yet, but hope you all consider buying that, all you history buffs and people like me. Our official anniversary book, 125 years about unseen history. So that'll be well worth keeping your eye out for. And there's another book out about City made by a couple of supporters later, which I'll tell you about when we finish off later on. Right, 1974. Well, what were things like in 1974? Well, let me think. It was, for me personally, it was my second year of going to away games. I went to my first game in February 1973, which I'll talk about another day. It was a little trip to a place called Anfield for an FA Cup game, which we managed to draw. And I think we even had I remember us scoring, actually. I was in the Anfield Road end, a lot of City fans, obviously. It was massive City fans that day in the Anfield Road end. I was obviously only 13. A lot of it went over my head, but obviously there was a lot of trouble and things like that. But obviously I remember, I think City scored, actually. It was disallowed. I think Francis Lee scored and it was actually disallowed. But that was the first away game, obviously, in 1973 when I was 13. So by 1974, I'd started to go in quite a few, actually. So these programmes I'm going to show you for November, obviously I went to 2 or 3 of those games, of the away games, as well as obviously I went to all the home games. And I'm only finding out now from times like 73. Obviously, I either didn't bother with programmes or I used to cut them up because I'm having to restock my programmes from that time when I was going on a regular basis. So yeah, it was my second year of going watching City away from home. I used to go either on the football specials or on Finland's coaches, which obviously I lived in Withington. So there was a depot in Fallowfield, which was only a 20-minute walk away. So we used to go on the Finland's SMC Holt, I think they were called as well, Finland's SMC Holt coaches. So you may remember that. I was at Parswood High School, so it was my last year. It was just obviously November into my 5th year. I didn't stay on. Obviously, I went out to work in September 76. So it was my last year at Parswood High School. I had some great times there. And most of the games I went to at this stage with a lad called Chris, who was my best mate. His birthday was on the 2nd of July. Mine's on the 6th of July. We used to be quite close together. He's a bit more worldly wise than me. Sort of looked after me a lot, I think, Chris. I mean, I was a bit simple sometimes. Chris was a bit more worldly wise. We used to work. I mean, in those days, you used to be hard, didn't you? And Chris used to be quite a hard lad, a great lad. I mean, he wouldn't, he never caused trouble, but he wasn't afraid of sticking up for himself and sticking up for me. And obviously, I tried to where I could reciprocate with that. Obviously, I wasn't the hardest young lad in the world. In the 70s, it could be a bit nasty at places, and you had to be careful. You had to really be careful at some places. So anyway, that's me in 1974. We had Harold Wilson as the Prime Minister, and that was the second. We had 2 general elections in 1974. So you think things are bad now? I mean, 74 was even worse. On the 7th of November, Lord Lucan disappeared. We never did find him, did we? On the 13th of November, McDonald's opened their first restaurant in southeast London. So this is all 1974. On the 21st of November, 21 people were killed in the Birmingham pub bombings. And obviously on the 24th, the Birmingham 6, obviously related release, were arrested. Inflation stood at 17.2%. There was 2 number ones that month. Everything I Own by Ken Booth. I think it's to do with bread, but I don't remember that. But obviously, David Essex was also number 1 in that November for a couple of weeks. Gonna Make You a Star by David Essex, if you remember that. There was 3 number 1 albums during November. So that's the old record albums. Smiler by Rod Stewart, Rolling by the Bay City Rollers, and Greatest Hits by Elton John. And the best-selling single of 1974, one of my favourite groups, Mud, Tiger Feet. I mean, I won't start singing and upsetting you by singing it. Tiger Feet by Mud. ABBA won the Eurovision, which I loved at the time, and I still quite have a laugh at it now, with Waterloo. Who can remember that? And John Pertwee finished his stint as Doctor Who. And Mr. Tom Baker, we had a brief glimpse of Tom Baker in 1974 with his taking over before he did his stint. BBC Teletext, CFAX went live with 30 pages, an amazing 30 pages. And we saw the last TV episode of Monty Python. TV debuts, It Ain't Half Hot Mum, Porridge, Tissues. Tiz Was. You remember Tiz Was? Wish You Were Here, Wheel Tappers and Shunters Club, and Rising Damp all debuted in 1974. Big movies. You know, I'm into my movies on moviegamenostalgia.com. Godfather Part 2, Chinatown, Tower and Inferno, Young Frankenstein, Earthquake. And to sort of finish off that general stuff for you, if you're not too bored, first class stamp 6p, cigarettes were 20p a packet for 20. Average house price was £9,927. The average weekly wage was £32. I started work the year after, and my gross wage was £24.29 in 1976. So in 1974, obviously, 1975, yeah, sorry. I started working in 1975, not 1976. Average weekly wage was £32. A pint of lager cost 20p. Yeah, I used to go to the pub with a couple of quid and play a game of darts, have enough for chippy on the way home and still have change. So there you go. Pint of milk was 5p. A Ford Escort Mk was $3,500. You know, a Big Mac was 40p. Obviously, with McDonald's opening, a Big Mac was 40p. And to fly to San Francisco in America, it was £105. Well, there you go. That's a general thing. I mean, city related. Finland's coach to London. So if you wanted to get all these Finland's coaches, was about £2.30 to London. The train was about £3. To sit in the main stand, I don't have the Kipax prices. I couldn't find those. I'd imagine they're around about the 60, 65p. To sit in the main stand, reserve seats was 95p. The North stand was 85 and 80p, and the Platt Lane was 65p and 30p for juniors. So yes, I spent most of the late 60s, mid 60s, late 60s, and very early 70s in the Platt Lane. So I would have been spending about 30p juniors, and you should see. There's a famous picture. I haven't got it. I'll find it one day of the juniors queuing up to get in, and they all look about 20. So that's quite funny, taken from the 70s. And if you wanted to join the wonderful social club, Manchester Social Club, which I was a member of for many years, it was £1.10 to join in 1974. So there you go. That's us brought up today. Let's have a look at a little bit of football, eh? We do that. So we'll get the camera down. When we go to the first game we're going to look at, 2nd of November. There we go, Everton away. I went to this one. Everton was a place you had to be a little bit careful at, obviously. You had to be a bit canny when you went to Everton. You couldn't, you had to look after yourself. You had to have eyes in the back of your head, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think any Everton fans would disagree with that. And the same thing, obviously, when teams used to come to Main Road. It's a great pitch. I mean, there's Goodison. You can just about see Goodison in the background there. That's a great image. Obviously, the famous Mervyn Dane goal for West Ham United there. Club talk, and the manager at the time was Billy Bingham. So obviously the Everton's next game obviously had reserve games, and obviously the next game was Liverpool. So that was quite interesting, wasn't it? And they play Liverpool. And there's the old bit on City. Tony Butt, skipper at Manchester City, in their golden era triumphs at home and abroad in the late 60s, have spent barely 6 months in the manager's chair at Main Road, yet the change in their results is quite stunning compared with last season's scramble just above the relegation contenders. Yeah, I'll tell you where we are in the league in a minute. Keith McRae there, the wonderful Keith McRae. Some action, Mike Doyle, Alan Oakes. Barton City there, Mick Buckley, an Everton player. Don't remember him particularly. I don't know if you do, and this is quite good. Another switchboard, a brand new switchboard. Look at that switchboard there. The 19-year-old receptionist, Chris Welch from Anfield, the largest switchboard presents no problem whatsoever. After all, she was a GPO operator for over a year. The busier we get, the greater efficiency it will provide for all concerned, she said. So there you go, a great switchboard. I mean, if you're old enough to remember things like that. And here we go. Where are we doing? So obviously, if you can see that, City sitting second in the league. So we went to Everton sitting second. Everton doing pretty well there in fifth. The home games, look at the averages. Everton, a good healthy 38,000 there. City, 33,162. So not too bad, is it, for City there? So we went to Everton, Goodison Park, sitting second in the league. 100 Pipers Deluxe Scotch Whisky. I'm not sure if that's still going. So there you are. There you have the team check, City and Everton. The changes to the City team that day, if you look at the team there, we had, I'll just have a look for you. At number 10, we had Asa Hartford. And at number 11, Colin Barrett. I think it's Colin Barrett. And the sub was Phil Henson. So Phil Henson didn't really ring any bells with me. He does appear a couple of times in this tonight. But obviously that was the changes to the team. Obviously, Everton, Di Davis, Bernard, Sargent, Jones, Kenyon, Hurst, Buckley, Dobson, Lyons, Pearson, Cullen. Not names that sort of flow off the tongue for Everton, are they, to be honest with you? And a referee, PM Willis. Well, I mean, how did we do against Everton that day? Well, there's a crowd of 43,905, so well up on Everton's average. And we actually lost 2-0, unfortunately. So although I think we're talking more about our away form at that time, we did lose 2-0 to Everton that day, which is a little bit disappointing. And it could have been a lot worse because our star man, according to the Manchester City programme, the star man of the match was Keith McRae. So obviously the goal is going to keep us with the star man. Obviously we're probably lucky to get away with 2-0. So that was a bit of a letdown, wasn't it, from second in the league to go there and do that. And obviously there's a picture there from the Everton game of the wonderful, fantastic Colin Bell there taking a shot on goal. They usually do a little bit of the power of Colin Bell. The Czechs felt it, and last Saturday Everton's Steve Sargent had to turn his back to this hot shot. Yeah, so he had to turn his back. Sadly, it didn't lead to a win, did it? So we're talking now Saturday the 9th of November. So we're going the week after. We'll see where we're doing in the league that week. So Stoke City at home. The wonderful Tony Buck. There was little to remember from our trip to Everton last week. And except the informal ceremony which took place at our hotel stop off in Liverpool before the game. The occasion was a presentation by the players to Alan Oakes to mark his 500th league appearance since making his first team debut against Chelsea almost 15 years ago to the week. Skipper Rodney Marsh had organised a whip round among the players, and I brought a beautiful watch to present to Alan. After a couple of short speeches, the youngest professional in the team, Jeff Clark, do you remember Jeff Clark, was given the honour of handing over the watch. And there's an interesting thing. Tomorrow morning we head for Spain and a friendly match against Barcelona. There you go. So obviously we've no European games that season. So obviously I think Tony Butt said we're trying to keep our eye in. It's a break which should benefit the first team squad, and we cannot fail to be a wiser team after an experience of playing against a crack side like Barcelona on their genius forward, Johan Cruyff. Well, more on that in a minute, how we did there. 5-year record at Main Road against Stoke. Not great, actually. 0-0, 1-1, 2-1 to Stoke, 4-1 to City, and 1-0 to Stoke. So Stoke had a pretty good lead up to that match. These letters to the club are quite funny sometimes. I was thoroughly annoyed at the team photo in the Manchester City programme v Chelsea. If by chance you have a copy of the Arsenal City programme, you will find this full of colour. With Arsenal being a London club, it must be more expensive for them to produce than Manchester. Being an ardent City fan like so many others, this makes me see red. The least you can do is put a colour team photo in the forthcoming issue. And the answer from Manchester City: colour printing is very expensive, as many people realise. To have had a colour team picture would have added several £100s to a print bill that is already substantial. What you may have overlooked is that many league clubs, we believe Arsenal among them, are producing only 16-page programmes. We have maintained our size at 24 pages. Anyway, they go on defending themselves there. I think it was 1976 when we went colour. Social club there, telling you who's on at the social club. There's the old Finlands I was talking about. Wilmslow Road, Manchester. Specialist in all forms of trouble. Birmingham, £1.10p to Birmingham. That's not too bad, is it? There, Truman Steel, Pie Metals, Stone Dry, Levi's, Wranglers, City Desk. You got Colin Bell and Tony Butt there. Thing about the fans, ticket service. Phil, and there's the Phil Henson I talked about. I'm not familiar with this guy at all. He did. I looked at one of the stat things the other day, and Phil mentioned actually didn't get a mention in it, which was very disappointing, obviously, for Phil Henson anyway. And here we go. So how did we do? Obviously, the defeat at Everton pushed us back into 4th place. So Liverpool top. We played a game more. So we're only a point behind. As you can see, it's quite tight at the top there. 21 points down to 17 points, which is obviously 9 for 10 place there. So it's incredibly tight. There's only 2 points for a win in those days as well, so you have to consider that. Stoke City, how are they doing? Well, let's have a look. Stoke City, can't even find, where are they? Yeah, just below us. So Stoke were doing quite well in the 70s. I think they won the League Cup in the 70s, didn't they, as well? So they're sitting behind us with a game in hand and only 2 points behind. So it should be quite a good game against Stoke City this day. Your time to cash in. There used to be a time there for you to get your prizes. And here we are. This is a picture I actually put on Twitter a few weeks ago. We're looking for City's glamour girl. Obviously, they're after the next Miss Manchester City. And obviously, here's Tony Buck with here's the current Miss Manchester City, Barbara Warner, picture with manager Tony Buck. And you can see Tony Buck is quite a happy chappy there. And the teams, well, there you go. If you look at the teams on there, and I'll tell you any changes to the team for the Stoke game. Number 5, instead of Jeff Clark, we had Colin Barrett. And apart from that, we had Peter Barnes as substitute. So a very young Peter Barnes was substitute for this game. Manchester City versus Stoke, how did it go on? Well, we beat Stoke 1-0 with a goal from the wonderful Rodney Marsh. And that actually took us top of the league, believe it or not. So we actually went top with that win. Obviously, Alan Oakes was our star man of the match, and it was watched by a crowd of 36,966 watched that game. So that was Manchester City versus Stoke. So as was the norm in those days, you would normally follow with an away game. But as I said, the thing is, we had a little trip to Barcelona. And all I've got, unfortunately, on this Barcelona thing is a couple of images that I managed to get off the website. Fantastic image there of Rodney Marsh with Johan Cruyff. Fantastic picture there, and this one. I mean, look at that picture. And the red and obviously, if you looked at if you saw me stood before with the picture when I first introduced the kit, it was a red and blue angle thing, and I've got the red and blue scarf which I purchased for an England game, but I knew it obviously covered City as well. It was an England under-21 game at Main Road. So they're two great pictures there, aren't they, from that game. The team that night against Barcelona was McRae, Barrett, Donachie, Henson, Clark, Oakes, Summerby, Bell, Marsh, Keegan and Chewett. And the sub was Dennis Lehman. I think it's Dennis Lehman. I think I'm correct at that. Unfortunately, we lost 3-2 to Barcelona. It kicked off at 8:30 at night. So we'd done that. Obviously, we'd done that. What, for money, or just? I mean, no, we were told we did it for experience rather than money. So anyway, it meant a trip to Birmingham and another place, another game, and another place you had to be really wary about, as I spoke to about before. Birmingham City. Wasn't the friendlier places to go in the 70s and etc. I don't think it's an overly friendly place to go these days either. But obviously, then we had Birmingham City away. So let's look a bit of the action. Birmingham City. There's Bob Hatton's determination skills he forged between the Chelsea defence, leaving Droy and Bonetti grounded. So that's a game against Chelsea at St Andrews. Look at that stand there. That's a great stand, isn't it, at Birmingham City? I've been in the seats and standing in Birmingham City. It wasn't, as I say, it wasn't the friendliest of places. You had to have your wits about you. But there at Birmingham's ground. Captain Rodney Marsh there. The citizens. So little pen pics of everybody. Is Phil Ensign in there? So you don't even have Phil Ensign in there. So he's as I say, he's sort of come and went quite quickly. Freddie Goodwin was the Birmingham manager. Obviously, Tony Buck, City manager. Another great picture of St Andrews. That was it. I was forgetting where they played, but St Andrews, obviously, there. I've actually sat in that stand up in that corner somewhere up over far corner of there. I've sat in there. Facts and figures. So there we go. As we said, City top of the league. Good sight. Birmingham down in 11th. So obviously Liverpool got a game in hand and only a point behind, but it's nice to see City again. And this is probably the problem. If you look at the home record, we played 9 at home, won 8, drawn 1, but away we've literally won 1 game, drawn 3 and lost 4, and that used to be our Achilles heel that stopped us winning titles in the early 70s. I remember our away performances were dire. So look there, the old Howard Kendall. So the City link there with Howard Kendall. Crossword, Kiddy's Corner. Swallow, I don't remember them, but look at that. I must have had one of them. So I must have had one of them coats in the 70s. There you go. So there we got the lineup. So how did our lineup? A few changes to our lineup. So at number 4, we had the wonderful Phil Henson, as I said, who keeps popping up. At number 5, Mike Doe switched to number 5. Number 7 was Daniel Baines. Daniel Baines, number 7. I don't remember Daniel Baines. I'm sorry, mate. It doesn't ring any bells whatsoever. And Colin Barrett was the substitute. And yes, after the trip to Barcelona, we went to Birmingham City with a dreadful away record. And yes, you've guessed it, we got beat. 4-0, 5,143, which I think was a pretty reasonable crowd for Birmingham in those days. Just have a look at what they've been getting. So yeah, Birmingham at home, 32, 27, 33, 27, 25, 30 against Coventry, 36. Yeah, they got 36,000 against Leeds, who obviously were massive at the time, and got 35,143 against us. But sadly, another defeat for Manchester City away from home, as I said, which actually came back to haunt us, obviously. So we go on to the next City game, and it's against Leicester City, Saturday, the 23rd of November. Match programme 10p, so that's not too bad, is it? Tony Buck, and here we go. He summarises this away thing. The question has been thrown at me every angle this week. What goes wrong with City away from home? And this is a type of serious situation that should not be avoided by myself, because I can sympathise with the concern which it is causing to our fans. But I wish there was a simple explanation behind our failure to reproduce the winning form, which has brought us so many points at Main Road. The away record is beginning to look alarming. So yeah, that was a problem. I mean, obviously Tony Buck knew about it. 5-year record at Main Road against Leicester. Won 2-0, won 1-0, won 1, drew 1-1, won 2-0, won 6-0. So we got quite a good record going into the Leicester game. It was an entry Kathy Broad for the Manchester City, Miss Manchester City. So she's putting her. Obviously, did they even put the statistics in those days? It wouldn't surprise me. I can't see it. Oh, here we go. Yes, Kathy's vital statistics: 34, 25, 35, 5'3". Well, there you go. I mean, obviously these days you just, these sort of things, you don't get it yet. And there's obviously Alan Oates getting a silver plate. He got a watch off the players, didn't he? But getting a silver plate off Peter Swales for his 500th game. The Social Club. Who's on? Anyone exciting? Nope, never heard of them. They did have some good Pickwick Papers. I think they were like the Camberwick Green at the time, a funny group that did jokes, etc. City Bingo was an agent for them in the late 70s. Asa Hartford. Focus on the wonderful Asa Hartford. I have a cousin called Asa, named after Asa Hartford. And here we go. Let's have a look at the obviously the league. Sitting in, so we went from top to fourth with that defeat, and look at that, Ipswich Town have gone to the top. But look at that, 4 teams on 22 points. Us, Everton, Liverpool, and Ipswich. I mean, 21 points. Sheffield United, 20 points. Stoke, West Ham, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Derby, 19 points. Birmingham. I mean, it was unbelievable. Every team was beating each other. We'd only won some of our away games, or even drawn our away games. It was only 1 point for a draw in those days. Newcastle versus City, £2.30 on the special train. That's one we'll talk about. That's the last game we'll look at today. The Bell Waldron restaurant, obviously, from you to us. Obviously, any more complaints? Would I be right in saying that Glyn Pardo's played in every numbered shirt but goalkeeper number 5 during his career with City? Well, that's just a general question. Yes, Glyn has proved the ace utility player. He started in forward position and was converted to fullback in October 1966, although he's played in other positions since, and he's even played at number 5 shirt as recently as October 14th against Manchester United reserves. So there you go. And the team today. So there you got the teams. Leicester, anyone in Leicester we know there? Keith Weller, I remember great. I mean, Leicester were not a bad team with you at the time. Where were they in the league? I didn't see that, did I? Leicester was sat. There you go. 3, 6, 8, 7. Down in 12th place, Leicester. So they weren't doing too bad. Only 15 points, only 7 points behind City after 18, 19 games. So it wasn't too bad. Changes to the City team. We had number 4, the wonderful Phil Henson. Mike Bell switched to number 5 again. Number 7, Daniel Baines. Oh, I think I give that as a Birmingham team, didn't I? No, I'll have to correct myself on that one. Number 7, Daniel Baines, and number sub, Colin Barrett. Yeah, I mean, for the Birmingham game, please forgive me. I gave the wrong information. The only change to the Birmingham game was number 10 was Henson, and Lehman was the substitute. So my apologies, I was wrong on that one. Before someone comments on it, no doubt, I always get people sort of say, "Oh, this was. I think you might be wrong with this." I do get things wrong. I'm not perfect, and I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so that was the changes. Henson, Doyle, Daniel Baines, who I'd, as I said, still never heard of, and sub was Barrett. Yes, did we win? Yes, of course we won. 31,628 crowd. Daniels. It was Daniels. The name was Daniels. I keep saying Daniel Baines, but my apologies. It was Daniels scored 2 in this game, and Bell and Stewart added the other 2. But a quite conclusive 4-1 win, 31,628. And again, yes, you guessed it, that took us back to the top of the league once again. The game got slaughtered by Birmingham, by the way. Obviously, Willie Donachie was our star man. In the Leicester game, it was the wonderful Dennis Stewart. And then we had a break. We had a break from the league game, and then obviously Tony booked testimonial match on November 27th. Manchester City All-Stars versus an All-Stars 11. Chairman's message. He's often been paid to the future of football manager at the outset of his career, but then tonight is different. For although Tony Book is a young manager, he's a footballer, but we honour him this evening. So yeah, I mean, obviously he was a great footballer, and that is his testimony for his football, not for his managing. There's a great picture of him with the Charity Shield, which we called it then, and it still is to most of us, the FA Cup and the old First Division 1 title. The Playboy Club of Manchester. My fiancée Sharon actually worked there in Canal Street for a period in the 70s. So there you go. If you ever went to the Playboy Club, I never did, but if you ever went, I think her gal, she had a lovely purple outfit, and she hasn't got it anymore, unfortunately. But anyway, that's changing the subject. Some great pictures there of Tony Buck. Skip, as we call him. A very good evening to Anthony Keith Buck. September the 4th, 1934, and he's still doing a great job for us, isn't he? appointed manager April the 17th, 1974. Sylvia and his kids, that's Tony's wife there. His 2 children, Tracy and Anthony. Nice pictures. I mean, the pictures aren't great. They're just not great quality in the programme. So your City the All-Stars, Shilton, Forsyth, Lampard. There you go. That's not the young Lampard. That's the old Lampard. Howard Kendall, Watson, Hughes, obviously Best, Emlyn Hughes, George Best, Northern Ireland, Trevor Brooking, Worthington, Kevin Keegan, Bobby Charlton, Tony Towers at Sunderland, obviously would join City, Wagstaff at Wolves. So, I mean, there's a few connections, few future City connections in that team, isn't there? That actually played against City in this game. Over a picture of him there. At Oldham there, Tony Buck playing at Oldham. So, not the greatest content, 15p. And how did we go on? Well, I think we do have a score for this one. Yeah, we lost 4-6. So the City 11 lost 6-4 to the All-Stars. Unfortunately, it was only a crowd of 14,500 turned out, but I believe it was an awful night. I believe it's absolutely bucketing down most of the night. So in those days, 14,500 doesn't sound a lot, but it wasn't too bad a crowd. And they basically had most of the first team out playing, didn't they, in that game? I mean, which is unusual. I mean, on the 30th of November, City were playing at Newcastle. I've actually got the reserves are playing, obviously, in the Central League at Main Road, and you just got you got this sort of sheet. Obviously, City were doing okay in the Central League. Central League as well, 4th in that. I have no idea what the score was. I'm sorry about that. I failed you miserably, but that's obviously what we used to do for the. Obviously, when we played a team away from home, we used to play their reserve team at home. And obviously, this is the last game of November. Newcastle United versus Manchester City, November 9th, 30th of November, 1974. So a smaller programme for Newcastle called the Black and White, 10p. Newcastle United take on First Division leaders. So with our win against Leicester City, it took us back to the top of the table, obviously. And it's tight at the moment. As I say, the league's tight. United 10th in the table, but they're only 4 points behind City. So, again, they were doing really, really well. What sort of crowds were they getting? 35, 34, 30, 40,000, 26, 43,000 against Ipswich, 39,000, 30,000. Yeah, so they were getting pretty good crowds. Again, the picture quality is not fantastic in some of these older programmes. Obviously, when they send these things to the printers, they take an original photo and it doesn't quite come out perhaps as it should do, as it would do clarity-wise as you get these days. And there's the old table there. So Manchester City proudly sitting top, although, as we said, Liverpool still have that game in hand. 1-10, drawn 4, lost 5. Again, as you say, it's the sad away form that is going to come back and haunt us, unfortunately. Paul Canal, so there's some action pictures from St James's Park. A great ground. Again, another place you have to be very, very careful. And, you know, it's not too bad these days, is it? But you still have to have your wits about you sometimes. But obviously in the good old 70s, it was quite a hard place to go. Well, not a bad programme. A lot of bit on other things. Manchester City facts and figures. So we're playing 1887 there. We were formed, turned professional 1887. And name changed 1895 to Manchester City. So perhaps we shouldn't be celebrating our 125 years. Perhaps Newcastle knew what it was and we didn't. If you look at the teams, obviously I remember people like Ian McFall for Newcastle, Alan Kennedy, Malcolm Super Mac, obviously Malcolm McDonald at number 9. And our team was as printed. So our team was McRae, Hammond, Donachie, Henson, Phil Henson, Doyle Oakes, Daniels, Bell, Marsh, Hartford and Stewart. So our team was obviously as printed in the programme. It was a good crowd, 37,600, one of their highest crowds at Newcastle. And yes, did City break the hoodoo of the away win? No, did we, Eck? Who finished 2-1 to Newcastle. Rodney Marsh scored City's goal with Mike Doyle being the star man for City, a defender being the star man. So again, it wasn't very good, was it? And if you look at the league table after that game, just to finish off, this league table takes us up to the 30th of November. So there we are, back in 5th place, only a point behind the leaders, who are Stoke City. So as you can see, consistently, it's just changing, isn't it? Green off top scorer, Boozman top scorer for Liverpool, Phil Boozman, remember him? Johnson and Talbot, joint top scorers for Ipswich, had a great team. Latchford for Everton, Bob Latchford, the wonderful Bob Latchford. So there you go. We're sat in 5th, and as I say, down to over halfway. Middlesbrough have 20 points, so they're only 5 points behind the leaders. So even though we started in 4th place November, sadly, we did hit the top twice, but we finished back in 5th. And as a history thing, I mean, I'm not going to sort of tell you how we got on that season. I think what I like people to do, and obviously for my point of view, from someone who enjoys history, obviously, I like people to learn things and obviously find out how these things went for the team. So why not have a look? Why not have a look how things went on? How we sort of did, how things actually finished up for us that season. Have a look at that, and it's great, isn't it? Just especially the younger ones. I mean, you learn your history. I mean, there's a lot of young fans out there of other clubs don't know the history of City, etc. So if you do that, please, get out there to encourage the young ones to do it as well. Find out about the history. Find out how we did in the 74-75 season. Find out how we finished. I mean, when I look through these things, even I forget certain things. I certainly know we didn't win the league, did we? But did we come close? Did we improve that away form? Find out. It's great. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that look of Central. Sorry about a couple of errors. Forgive me. I'm not going to edit it out. I'll be there all day editing. So please accept my apologies for any errors. And I think in the last Citizen, obviously, I also had Tony Buck as a captain when we lifted the old 2nd division. That was my error. I had visions of Tony Buck lifting that trophy, and it was actually Crossan. Crossan was the manager at the time. So thank you for the gentleman who pointed it out for me. But my apologies. As I said, if I do anything wrong or get anything slightly wrong, please forgive me. I do this for fun and just for interest for you guys. And I'm sorry if some of the facts. I think 99.9% of the facts I think are fairly correct. Obviously with the Daniels thing as well. Obviously I was getting a bit mixed up, and I think that was Barney Daniels was the City player. Obviously scored a couple of goals in one of those games. Yes, and now it's come to my mind. You see, I do forget these things. So please bear with me, and I hope you enjoy it for the entertainment value. And I hope you have a good laugh if I do make mistakes. Anyway, a quick look at Twitter before we go. Obviously showing those Barcelona things before. Obviously this game, I've not been able to go back and find out when it was. I always remember, and I think he may have come a couple of times. Norman Wisdom came to was on the pitch at me. I don't think he was particularly a City fan. Obviously, he had a City fan on in that kit. That was from Mark Gilmartin. But it's just a memory of him coming on. If you can remember the game. I meant to actually try and contact Gary James and ask him, but I've forgotten. I'm always asking him things. He's probably gets sick of me. So if you know what it is, put it in the comments below. Let me know on Twitter or whatever. City on a Card, who is one of our regular things we look at, obviously. That's some great covers from Shoot magazine, obviously one with Franny Lee there. Some fantastic stuff on Shoot. I mean, that used to be my favourite. Look at that, the great kit. I mean, I've got a version of the kit today, but so that's City on a Card. Some great images from Shoot magazine there. And I think there's some more, and that was 6p then, the Shoot magazine, and then there was some when it went up to 7p. So probably a year or two later. There's the old. Now that's the red and it looks, that's the red and blue. So as I was saying before about the red and blue, I mean, I did buy one of these scarves at the England under-21 game because I thought, well, yeah, because it's our colours as well now. So it was like an England scarf and obviously a City scarf, and there's obviously again the red and black stripes against Coventry City there. The other sky blue, the false sky blues, not the proper sky blues like us. City on a Card again. Mike Doyle on the cover of the FKS sticker album, The Wonderful World of Soccer Stars 1971-72, and some stickers as well from that album. So these great. I mean, I'd love to have these card things now, actually. I know we do have the stickers and stuff and tops, but I mean, football cards would be great again now. They could put the football cards again. That's again City. That's at City on a Card 1. So they do some great stuff there. Please, sort of add them to your Twitter things. They do some great stuff. Picture from City from 1970. The old sky blues there. And also this other book I was going to sell game the other day. Pick up a copy of his new book, Don't Look Back in Anger. So it's a fan's book called Don't Look Back in Anger. I think it's out available to buy now at Amazon. And obviously it was in the Mary D's, the little program shop in Mary D's. He had copies for sale there. And it's by Don Price. He's done other things. He's done a couple of other books. We Never Win at Home, We Never Win Away, and A Football Fan's Story. And they're excellent books. Excellent. I mean, I think Amazon has got pretty much a 5-star rating. So obviously there's going to be some reviews of this coming out, which I'll that's image of the book cover with the guys. So yeah, that's actually out now to buy. So for Christmas coming up, $8.95. I think it's Kindle's version's about $5. I mean, I do get Kindle versions of the King of the Kid Packs and stuff like that, obviously, but it's nice to have the hardback version of it, isn't it? And I'll be looking at that in a future, obviously, City Past episode. I'll be having a look at that, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of reviews out there from people we trust. So I'll have a delve into that, obviously. At Memorabilia Mal posted a nice picture of City players getting a bit irate with the referee there. I think is that Arsenal? Looks like Highbury. Yes, Colin Bell, Mike Summer, finally Rodney Marsh rushed to congratulate the referee. Well, I don't think they're congratulating him, and that was before the days of VAR. So again, yeah, that's a better image of the book. Don't Look Back in Anger. So obviously things we've touched upon, I've been touching upon when I've been looking back at the 90s and stuff like that. Anyway, that's that on Twitterverse. I think that's very much it. I can thank you for tuning in, push your old notifications. Sorry for my blobbering on and a couple of early mistakes when I was looking through the programs. I'm trying to do two things at once. You know, as men aren't very good at multitasking, but I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, push the bell notifications. I'll be back, obviously, with a City presence this weekend after the on Wednesday after the Southampton League Cup game. I'll be covering, obviously, City's game against Southampton and obviously looking back at the game against Aston Villa. So I'll be doing that on Wednesday for you. And obviously the next City Pass will probably another couple of weeks. It will not be specific to a month. There'll be a couple of interesting things in there, but I'll let you know when that comes out. So please, I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe, tell your friends, please. Whatever you're going to do with the rest of your day, look after yourselves, look after your family, and especially look after your friends and family. And I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.